Hello, everyone. Rotoworld's Josh Norris and Patrick Daugherty here with a look at Rotoworld's summer rankings. Pat, we got to talk about tight ends. It's a difficult position to talk about because it's not as deep as other ones in terms of wide receiver, running back, and quarterback. But if you land the right player, you can kind of win your league. It can separate you week to week. Let's look at Rotoworld's top 10 at the position. Obviously, at the top, Pat, Travis Kelce of the Kansas City Chiefs. Pat, right now, he's going around the end of the first round. If you're lucky at the top of the second round, are you interested in that territory?
I just don't know if he's to that Gronk level. I mean, he's had some Gronk-like seasons, but he's just not quite the dominator Rob Gronkowski was in his prime. And he is going on 30. He is coming off ankle surgery. He's coming off what's probably going to be his career year. I think he is the tight end one, should be the number one overall tight end. But a lot of years I was into the Gronk in the first round case. To me, I'd be more cautious with Travis Kelce.
And I think if people draft Travis Kelce in the first round, they think, okay, he has to be the tight end one each and every week. And I think that's the wrong mindset, Pat, because more than any other position, there's a massive cliff at tight end. And let me bring up this. Last year, again, Travis Kelce was the number one tight end in half-point PPR, 234 points. The drop down to tight end 6, which was Austin Hooper, that was 118 points. That's basically 50% of the production from Travis Kelce. So really the mindset you should have when drafting Kelce in round 1 or round 2 is that, okay, I'm basically locked in as a top 5 wide receiver each week, which in the end of the season gives you a top 1, 2, or 3 option.
And that could happen, but I won't sit here and guarantee he'll have more fantasy points than George Kittle even. So to me, if I'm not even positive he's going to be like I was with Gronk those years. If I'm not even positive, I'm not going to do it.
And I think the current ADP still has it kind of baked in that we are expecting Tyreek Hill to miss some time.
Yeah, which was a big part, of the offseason ADP.
Because no matter what, some of those targets would have been funneled to Travis Kelce. Let's talk about George Kittle and Zach Ertz because, Pat, there's a clear top 3 along with Travis Kelce at this position. And we talked about Travis Kelce being a first-round pick. George Kittle, Zach Ertz are being drafted in the round 2 and round 3. Do you have a preference between either?
I do. I just think George Kittle's a special player. I think Zach Ertz had a special season, a career year by any measure, but I think he might just fall back to more of his career norms this year with kind of the only 75 catches, 800 to 850 yards. A part of his dominant 2018 was just the Eagles were in such disarray in the receiver core, but they have Deshaun Jackson now. They used a high pick on J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, and I just think everything is going to be better with the Eagles' passing offense this year, and it's still going to be a great year, a clear top 5, probably clear top 3 year for Zach Ertz. But to me, he is the tight end 3 behind Kelce and George Kittle.
I agree with you that George Kittle is the tight end 2, but Pat, currently in drafts, George Kittle is going as the 3rd tight end. Now it's basically the same ADP as Zach Ertz, but it's interesting because we all rank George Kittle as the 2nd tight end, and it's because of how much of a career year Zach Ertz did have last year. It wasn't just a little bit, Pat. He had career high in targets by more than 44 compared to his previous high, and in catches by 38. I'm not going to say he's a declining player, but everything you mentioned, like, we can only look at these rosters as if they're healthy, and he had worse numbers when Alshon was on the field, and we know Alshon missed some time last year, and we know Deshaun Jackson is coming into this offense, plus other options at running back that are better than what they had last year, and Carson Wentz is a healthy player as well.
Yeah, Zach Ertz is just kind of like Jason Witten was in his prime, an elite fantasy player, but kind of still more about compiling, whereas George Kittle, he compiles, and like Travis Kelce, and like Rob Gronkowski, mixes in huge plays. And to me, if you're going to take a tight end that high, it needs to be someone with that kind of pedigree.
Meanwhile, George Kittle is younger. George Kittle is more athletic.
He's better.
George Kittle is just a better football player. And at worst, he is the 2nd option on that passing game, and probably the primary option. And he's not catching passes from Nick Mullins and C.J. Beathard this year, yet he's catching them, we hope, from Jimmy Garoppolo, so it does make sense. But Pat, in order to take one of those top 3 tight ends, you're going to have to take one in the top 3 rounds. That's expensive for a lot of people. So then let's look at this kind of young, upcoming group at 4, 5, and 6. That's Evan Engram with the Giants, Hunter Henry with the Chargers, O.J. Howard with the Bucs. Again, a lot of things to love about these players, but they're not quite in that top 3 tier.
Yeah, I mean, all these guys, you can make the case. All 3 of them could easily finish in the top 3, kind of be a spoiler to the top 3 we just talked about. But all 3 have questioned. You know, Bruce Arians didn't do a whole lot with the tight end position when he was in Arizona. Evan Engram could be a quarterback change, could be a dysfunctional offense again. Hunter Henry, we haven't seen him play in a long time. We know that Phillip Rivers has targeted the tight end position his whole career, but was that because it was the tight end position, or was that because it was Antonio Gates? And all three have very positive upside cases to make, but also just kind of legitimate questions where I don't honestly have a straight answer of those three who I'd want and who's like the most likely to kind of crash the party.
And there is a cliff, again, talking about cliffs at the tight end position. George Kittle and Zach Ertz are being drafted around pick 24 right now. O.J. Howard then is at pick 59. Hunter Henry, 61. Evan Engram, 65. So at least the price tag isn't nearly as expensive, but as you alluded to, there are reasons why. But Pat, I can see all three making a case to ultimately be ahead of Zach Ertz by the end of the season, ahead of George Kittle or Travis Kelce if things break right. Because we talk about it. O.J. Howard's one of the most athletic tight ends. He just hasn't been able to stay healthy. And Bruce Arians should bring some stability to that offense. Hunter Henry, you've seen Antonio Gates be super productive with Phillip Rivers, and now it's really the Hunter Henry show. And Evan Engram, I actually think, Pat, his numbers in the past have been better without Odell Beckham, despite them basically having two receivers that win the same area of the field as Golden Tate and Sterling Shepard.
Well, Josh, I think you just put a bow on Evan Engram, O.J. Howard, and Hunter Henry, and I'm just going to use that to launch into talking about the only one of those players who actually matters, and it was someone you didn't mention, and that's Vance McDonald. The most George Kittle-like of any of those players.
Nice.
Was already top 12 in tight end yardage last year, averaged over 12 yards per catch, which, can be a fickle, like fluky type number, but that's a big number for a tight end. And he did this, not even as the starter. The old starter, Jesse James, is gone. Antonio Brown, when is 150, 160 targets are gone. And he's the kind of fantasy tight end I like to target, a guy who makes big plays, could have a lot of volume, produced already big fantasy numbers as the number 2. And he's someone, maybe even more than those three, that I think can kind of be the spoiler who crashes the top 3 or 4.
Yeah, and Vance is picked around 91 right now. And
way too low.
As you mentioned, Pat, George Kittle was around 9, 10, 11 last year. And so getting Vance that later on in drafts would be a great value.
It's apples to oranges because he's an older player,
yeah.
Older than George Kittle was last year, but Vance McDonald is this year's George Kittle.
Pat, thanks so much. Thanks to all of you out there for watching. And for more rankings, projections, strategy, and advice on how to dominate your drafts, check out the all-new Rotoworld NFL Draft Guide, now mobile optimized with a new look and feel, just like me and Pat. It's never been easier to take our award-winning advice with you to your drafts for that extra competitive edge. Just go to rotoworld.com/NFL Draft Guide for more.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.